Hey, how is everybody? Back to more KSP. I'm doing this a little earlier. Normally, I'd have maybe waited a little later to do it, but my sleep pattern's been all over the place recently, so I want to not be up quite as late. So yeah, this is while Circon streaming, and also I noticed Jingles is streaming as well. That's a really rare event, but they're both playing Mass Effect, and it's a game I'm not like massively excited by. I enjoyed the first two Mass Effect games, and I played a little bit of Mass Effect 3, but I don't know. Andromeda, I'm kind of, it's one of these ones I'll probably pick it up for cheap on Steam at some point, but not too fussed overall. So, where we're at is basically needing more science and having enough science at least to now get into orbit. So, I've done a bit of basic design work. I haven't actually tested out this particular design, but what I'd like to do is I called it the Twitch Orbiter Mark 1. I'd like to get into orbit and then maybe even see if we can get to the moons of Gale in the span of about, I don't know, 2.5 hours. So this almost hits the part limit. Almost. I'm still working with the unupgraded vehicle assembly building, so it's 30 parts and 140 tons, which is fine. We have actually upgraded the launch pad, so the tonnage is not the problem, but the height and the part count, especially the part count, trying to work around that is a bit tricky. Now you'll notice there's some parachutes on both these stages. Theoretically, the mod that lets you recover funds from jettisoned things if they have parachutes on, that this should be sufficient for these stages that I get some recovered funds via that mod. So that's why there's parachutes on. Normally I wouldn't bother with parachutes because they'd just they'd drop out the physics box and vanish for all intents and purposes by the time we actually discard those stages. But no, theoretically we ought to be able to get some funds back. So yeah, this is ready to go pretty much. We've got the basic MechJeb case available, which doesn't give me a lot of tools with MechJeb. The functions unlock over time, but it at least tells me now how much delta V I've got and also what my thrust to weight is. So I've actually scaled down the thrust of this engine. Oh no, not that bottom engine. It was this engine, wasn't it? Yeah, I've limited that one because otherwise it was going to have a pretty powerful thrust to weight, which you've got to be careful of the G-force limits, really. So let's select our lucky Kerbal Naut. I do wonder... Oh, well, we've only got one pilot left now because we killed Jeb. But I do wonder... There was a thing I was thinking about because I've had the thought it would be nice to name Kerbal Nauts after viewers. So... oh, okay, that's weird. Yeah, okay, hang on. KSP's had a little freak out. And the game's crashed. Never mind. Yeah, for some reason, that had a little a moment where it loaded into the VAB and then froze, and then the game crashed, so that's fine. That was meant to happen, clearly. So now we get to wait for KSP to launch once again, which is fine. This might take a little while because it's got to load up all the various the mods into RAM. Basically, that's how KSP works. It loads everything into RAM. So with all the mods I've got, it's using a fair chunk of my 16 gig of RAM. It's not a huge amount. Like, it's not enough to make me worry the whole system's going to crash or anything. But there are mods out there where you can really put quite a lot of stress on your RAM. I heard tell there's a texture pack for the real scale solar system which uses detailed pictures of actual the actual solar system, which is 64K textures. We're not just talking like 4K textures, 8K textures, no, 64K textures. And you need some absurd amount of RAM just for that one particular texture pack, so that's ridiculous. It was quite entertaining seeing me talking about a lot of nothing. Yeah, I just noticed on the little OBS preview screen that you can see my mouse cursor moving around, but the the VAB itself had actually frozen, oddly enough. So yeah, it was one of the things I encountered when trying to record KSP with OBS, when it's switching between the different modes, I guess you'd call them. So going from the hangar to the open world, or vice versa, or going into one of the the tracking station or whatever. It was causing issues with Bandicam for some reason. So that time when I streamed and recorded with Bandicam at the same time for the launch of the TOG, that was a bit of an editing nightmare because I had to go through and basically make sure that the audio I'd recorded matched up then with the video, because there was a lot of bits where it had chopped out chunks of frames when it was loading between the different parts of the game. That might just be a Unity limitation, I don't know. But yeah, Bandicam in particular. Well, if I could do screen recording, it'd probably be fine, because I was doing client recording, it wasn't. Right, let's take another look at the rocket. Hopefully it'll load this time. No, this is... Is it fine? Is that... No, see, I've put a thing on screen and it's just not appearing on OBS. What the hell? This is really peculiar. Let's go back out to the Space Center. No, I'm now looking at the Space Center. OBS is still looking at the interior of the vehicle assembly building. That's really strange. Okay, now I'm gonna try this one more time. I'm going to try forcing it, because it's launching into full screen. If I try forcing it into windowed, maybe that might do it. I don't know. If it just doesn't want to run, I haven't changed anything about it. I haven't installed any more mods or anything, so I don't know what's going on here. This is really weird. Yeah, it loads up the VAB, and then for some reason at that point OBS is just not picking up anything that's happening on the screen. Right, so that's now, I've alt entered, that's now windowed. Just forcing the program to to go to windowed rather than doing it through the options. We'll see if that does anything towards our issue. Yeah, this I've not encountered this before either, Sleece. That's a new one on me in terms of using OBS and it just not updating. Although having said that, occasionally with World of Warships, at the end of a battle, it will just kind of it'll just freeze and I completely meant to bash my microphone there. Yeah, it'll just freeze on the end score screen, and I basically have to then restart Warships. So I think it's something with OBS rather than something with KSP in this case. Where OBS is just not picking up the something. I don't know. It's all as far as I'm concerned, it's magic, all this stuff, but there's clearly some technical reason why OBS isn't behaving itself. Let's try this again. We are now technically windowed. It's very peculiar. Well, let's try the spaceplane hangar this time. Yeah, you can, if you've got the option turned on, you can indeed kill the crew. Right, so the little animated figures are clipping in and out of cargo containers. That's all moving around. I'll show you. I was mucking around with tweak scale. I was just making random things because why not? Oh, there we go. So that's now, yeah. So I called this one the Sombra Flyer. I don't know if Silly Sombra's actually here, but yeah, I was just mucking around and seeing what I could do in tweak scale. So it looks fine on screen, but the the icons are kind of half submerged off the bottom of the screen, which is slightly annoying from my point of view. But we'll stick with this because this appears to be working. Anyway, so yeah, I made a kind of a drone flying thing with scaled up parts just to muck around with tweak scale, really. Anyway, so let's hope it behaves itself now. I think I was having the thought of I could try and recruit another astronaut and then see if I can. I don't know how you. We maybe want another pilot. That's one. Okay, well, enlist a pilot and then. I don't know. Oh, I wondered if there was some way in game to rename your pilots, but I think maybe that's something you either need a mod for, or you have to go and do it in the open up the save file with the text editor. So anyway, we've hired a new pilot. Indeed, Chase M. I should just be in charge of all the things. Right. Okay. This is fine. It's working fine when it's. Yeah. So it's interesting to note that this test bed thing, which is the thing I sent to the pole last time round, or not intentionally sent to the pole, but that's where we ended up landing. That actually costs more than my manned capsule somehow. So anyway, yeah, this is it. It's actually properly displaying this time. So it's the basic capsule. We've got science instruments, we've got a little battery pack, we've got a little solar panel, which you could tweak scale so it was 400% size and gives a huge amount of electricity, but that might make it a little bit unaerodynamic, so let's just stick with the regular size. So yeah, there's a couple of things I've actually I scaled the MechJeb box down slightly. I think I scaled the antenna down slightly, which actually affects the antenna range. It dynamically changes stuff. It's one of these things. It's one of these mods, tweak scale, where if it was in the base game, it would be really neat because it would remove the need, in some ways, to add a lot of extra parts. Different size fuel tanks, because you could just scale up fuel tanks to be the size that you need. But now there's a 64-bit client, it's kind of less imperative, but it would still reduce the kind of the clutter that you can get when you have a lot of mods installed, for instance. So we'll pick Valentina, who does have a little bit of experience already, and our goal is to get into orbit. And I have to do this myself manually because I don't think MechJeb has those functions yet. So here we are loading in to the launch pad. Okay, this all looks good. I'll just double check the staging, and I can immediately see a problem there. We've got that parachute stage, that parachute cluster there is staged with the main thing, so it'll fire off and the parachutes will immediately go, which we don't want. So let's change that. Let's turn on stability assist. We could even use the MechJeb functions. So what we've actually got available for MechJeb so far is not a lot. We've got orbit info. That screen's actually going to be quite useful. Vessel info, and a couple of other things which so no actual control components of MechJeb as of yet. So the Twitch Orbiter Mark 1, let's give this a go. So basically it should have enough delta V. It's not going to be an equatorial orbit because the Space Center is not oriented along the equator, annoyingly. It'd be nice if you could change that, but on the Galileo planet pack, for some reason they decided to orient the Space Center at kind of like 45 degrees. And so therefore I'm really terrible at actually doing this, like trying to, well, we learned this last time, I'm really terrible at controlling rockets manually, so this might take a couple of goes, to be honest. Right, we want to I think start turning that way slightly. So I've got some fins on for stability. We've got quite a decent amount of burn time with this bottom stage. It's an LVT45 swivel, so it's a very familiar engine for anyone that has played KSP. It's got more than enough thrust to get a rocket as simple as this off the ground. It's not a particularly heavy rocket. You can also stick on the interior overlay and see Valentina huddled there in her tiny little capsule. It's funny, you look at these things from the outside, and that was a really nice addition, because you look at the things from the outside and you think, oh, okay, that's probably quite big, and then you toggle it on and then you realise, no, that's actually quite cramped. It's really quite cramped. So, we're picking up a bit of speed. Obviously, as we burn fuel, our thruster weight's going up, and also we probably want to start to turn a bit more. So we're approaching 8,000. So it's showing my apoapsis so far as 17, so obviously that needs to be a lot higher. So picking up speed nicely. Let's pitch over to about 30 degrees. And sound's already dropping off as we hit the upper reaches of Gale's atmosphere. I probably called it Kerbin or said Kerbin a lot in the previous stream, because that's like the reflex. That's what you're used to saying is Kerbin, because, you know, this is Kerbin, right? You're playing Kerbal Space Program, but no, of course, this is Gale. So we are very close to ditching that first stage. Oh, and also, okay, we apoapsis is actually, I've burned more than I need to. The apoapsis is actually at 86 kilometers. So we could have put ourselves in a lower orbit, but that's fine. We've got more than enough, way more than enough delta V in this stage to get to where we need to go. I could put it in some kind of like really high orbit, but I don't think we'll do that, just because life support's a thing. We've only got okay, let's point that on the node. So 77-second burn, which is, so we need to start burning at about the 30-something second mark. Wait, I can't do numbers in my head very well. 40, oh god, 45-second mark or something like that. I can't even see you'll be able to see it on the stream, but the dots between the node information, that's actually cut off because I've got this windowed. So yes. Oh well. Anyway, so I've upgraded the astronaut complex, by the way, so I can have Valentina get out and do spacewalks. I'll actually pin the command pod information as well. We can just keep tabs on our life support. Oh, also, yeah, we need to start. We need to start burning. I was too busy blathering and not paying enough attention. So I could have, if I'd had the thrust limiter. I don't know. I probably didn't actually need to have the thrust limiter on that severely, but yeah. So there we go. This design has made orbit first go. No problems whatsoever. We're probably not going to have a lot of delta V. I don't think it was a very optimal launch profile, but we'll have about 200 meters a second left, which is more than enough for, you know, we could plane change maybe. Probably not very far. Certainly enough to deorbit where we want to. So that's absolutely fine. Just make ourselves keeping place on the thingy marker. Yeah, I wasn't too far off with starting my burn, but I started the burn a little bit late there because I was too busy yakking. I wonder if there's oh, there we go, life support monitoring. So just over 2 days life support, basically. Right, so that should be us at yes, it's not not a very neat orbit, but 200 meters a second delta V. So we've made orbit, which we don't get any particular awards for. I don't think. What contracts do we actually have at the moment? Go on an orbital spacewalk near Gale, so we have a contract to do that. That's fine. And the rest of them are all testing things of various kinds. So, yeah. Basically, we can get out and do a bunch of observation reports. And there we go. So that's the first spacewalk, and then we've actually got the contract as well. So we'll do the EVA report, which we can get on board. We can actually transmit these as we go as well. We've got a battery pack, and we've got an aerial. I should probably just have my science instruments pinned down. Obviously, the seismic thingy won't be much use right now, but let's do a crew report, log temperature. Oh no, we've already got the temperature scan, and in which case we'll already have the, yeah, of course, because we've already done that on the other thing. But wherever we land this thing, we're going to try and land it in a new biome, so I'm still going to get some science from those instruments. I probably could have maybe logged some data as I was coming up through the atmosphere as well, because I'm not sure I've got all that yet. So anyway, review stored data. I can transmit that. The little indication that we've done that, and we can also transmit the crew report. So the crew report from the pod, we only get one of those, but the EVA data, we can get multiple of those, or the EVA reports rather. Also, I'll tell you what I could do, which I haven't done, which is turn on the music, because the music in this game is rather nice. And I do like when you're going up into orbit and you know, even without looking, the moment that you get into space or into orbit, because the music just starts. So we can fast forward a little bit till we're over land. Valentina can give us another report. How's our electric charge? Actually need to be pointed the other way, I think, to get our solar panel doing what we need it to do. So let's do another EVA report from over Gale's lowlands. There is a mod, at least one that I know of, that lets you track when you're going over biomes or whatever that you've not been over before, but I couldn't find one that was up to date. Gale's Highlands, let's take that one and transmit that. So we're not getting a lot of science for these, but should we turn off that delta V window? We don't need that now. So this is all good science basically, and I just need to keep popping Valentina out every so often above Gale's mountains, so that's a different one again, and it's all going to be lovely, lovely science. And because these are all crew reports, I can transmit them fully, so even if the unthinkable happens and we manage to kill Valentina, which I don't think we should, I've got, I don't even need it, but I've got a heat shield on this thing anyway. It's unlikely to be. I'd have to deliberately, you know, I do have to completely derp out or deliberately try and kill Valentina for this to be fatal. So that's still Gale's mountain. So that's 3 biomes, just over. In fact, 4, because we got the over ocean biome as well. So let's speed it up a little bit. I think this is all the same biome. Not entirely sure. I haven't looked at a biome map of Gale or anything like that. Alright, so we're passing into the night side. Report above Gale's Midlands, we'll keep that. Now one thing we do need to keep an eye on is... Okay, let's not send any more reports while we're over the night side, because if you run out of electricity with TAC life support... let's point it this way and get a little bit of last power onto the solar panel before we get out of sight of the sun. But yeah, if you run out of power, it's a bad thing. Ordinarily, if you're playing vanilla KSP, you know, for this kind of mission, you don't really need a battery pack, but I did stick one on because it seemed rather necessary. Now, the capsule itself, I think it's one of the things that TAC does is it's rather more generous with the amount of electric charge. So the capsule alone carries 300, but we've also got an extra 100 from that battery without adding too much weight or anything like that. So we can keep popping out for the science reports, so we will keep doing that, but we won't transmit any more of them just now, I don't think. AVO reports. Okay, that's still the Midlands. Yeah, this is the kind of thing where having a mod that tells you when you're going over biomes would be extremely useful. It keeps track of the science that you've done. That's the Highlands. So otherwise you're just kind of doing this, you're popping out randomly every so often. Right, so we've got a very small amount of power drain. Oh, Gale's inland water, so there's one to keep. There's no is there, oh, there we go. We can stick the capsule cabin light on, but there's no external lights on this thing. I've also turned off the SAS control because that eats up a little bit of power as well. Probably not enough to be a problem, but anyway. And of course, Valentina can turn her own lights on her helmet. Okay, that's again Midlands. I don't know how many biomes there even are on Gale. I think Gale, the two moons around Gale have separate biome maps. I think the rest of the planets are single biomes, to my knowledge. But I think they're planning to add more biome maps in future. I think this is one of those things that's, you know, they're kind of following vanilla KSP in that regard, because vanilla KSP has proper biome maps for only a couple of the planets, including Kerbin. So let's just kill that spin. It's just the act of her getting in and out of the capsule causes spin, but you know, that makes sense. Equal and opposite reaction and all that. Well, the ISS, yeah, it probably does, because it's not like you can have a proper wash when you're on a space station. From my knowledge, they basically have to have like sponge baths. I think Skylab had an actual shower. I think they experimented with having like a kind of shower unit thing on Skylab. Well, this is the cheap and dirty way of killing your rotation, is just time accelerating. There's a mods that also, that's one of the mods I ran across that kind of looked interesting, was I wasn't sure how useful it would be to me, but if you're one of these people that loves realism, it does the calculations for spin even in time warp. So you can have, which is useful for some applications, because it means if you have something in geosynchronous orbit, you can have it always pointed at the same spot, whereas if you're time warping in, or you jump away to something else and come back, it will have changed the way it's facing, if you see what I mean. Whereas with this mod, it would always keep it facing where you want it to keep facing. So it kind of makes sense why you might want to use that mod for some applications, but I'm probably not going to be doing too much that would require it myself. Like if you're using a mod for space telescopes, which there is, I don't think it's quite functional, that one, but like, you know, in principle there is a mod that lets you build space telescopes, and you have to actually observe the other planets before you know about them. which kind of doesn't make much sense. You would obviously be able to do a lot with ground telescopes before you ever got to the point of building space telescopes. But the point is there that you have more to do, basically. So in that kind of situation, yeah, you would want the telescope to keep pointing in a certain direction, but not in the case of you know, when you're playing vanilla KSP, and there isn't really that much that you would want to necessarily keep pointing in the same direction. Maybe for the purposes of keeping solar panels trained in the way that you want, so you're never going to lose power or anything like that. But otherwise, there's not a whole lot of application for that. But for some people, it's just, I imagine, it's just a nice thing. They just want it to behave in a certain way, right? That looks like we're going over. I might have missed like a coastal. No, okay, we're above Gale's Water now. I might have missed a coastal zone one, but coast ones are really hard to get. So this is all going to be over the ocean. Also now. If I get the capsule pointing that way, that's fine. So we get full exposure on the solar panel. Man, this game can be... Okay, I'll have to get rid of that. But man, this game can be nice looking. It really can. Especially with, you know, various mods. It does sort of spoil it when you look at the chunky stock textures. But there are... there's quite a nice one called Ven's Stock Parts Revamp, which is mostly just stock part retextures. But... I was looking and it's not actually compatible with the latest version of KSP, so I left that one aside. But that's one I'm aware of, that retextures your stock parts to look rather more nicer and consistent. Because I have to say, a lot of the textures, like you've got the really cartoony ones, like the battery packs, and then you have other parts that actually look like proper spaceship parts. So there's quite a clash in texture styles in KSP. It's not like it does not particularly. Feel like a coherent set of textures. Anyway, so we're just all well over water at this point. Oh, that's a big ocean. Right, we're approaching land. Let's get Valentina out and see. Oh, above Gale's Water. Above Gale's Water. Oh, we've gone straight from above water to above the Midlands. So there might not be a shore biome as there is on Kerbin. Oh, also, yeah, we need to actually get her back inside before we can... So that looks like it might be a separate biome. Not 100% sure. This is Gale's Lowlands. Yeah, KSP is like, you can make it with mods as complicated as you want it to be. It's not a game like the stock game is perfectly playable, and for most people they want to start playing with the stock game to actually get a handle on how KSP works. And then later on, you can maybe start thinking about, you know, real scale mods, or just mods that add realistic communications distances, or, you know, there's all kinds of things. And then there's the more kind of like the Interstellar pack, which has all kind of sci-fi things that you have to go through a lot of to. Yeah, I just had a thought with all the science reports and everything. I didn't even take them from the pad at the Space Center. Well, that's fine. We can do that with later flights. It's actually, I've been watching somebody else do a Galileo ×10 scale, which is almost real Earth size. It's not quite as big. It's like a couple of percent smaller. But yeah, they were talking about like some of the observation contracts where you have to fly around on the planet, having to fly literally thousands of kilometers, which would take a long time. Even the longest flight contracts, you know, if you fly all the way around the planet on Kerbin, if you do it at high altitude with fast aircraft doesn't take that long. Whereas if you think about trying to fly all the way around the Earth, yeah, it takes a while. Absolutely takes a while. Yeah, if you get the handle on the basics, Sleaze, the one mod that you might want to consider from the start is either MechJeb just for the information, like even if you don't use any of the hand-holding stuff that I use, because some of the things in this game I absolutely suck at, like docking, but the things like the Delta V information is invaluable. But there's another mod that gives you that as well without having all the MechJeb gubbins, which is called Kerbal Engineer. So that also gives you all kinds of information about your craft. And Delta V is the main one that you're interested in, because if you know, like, even just trial and error, you can figure out how much Delta V you need to get to different places, even if you don't go away and look it up. So yeah, that's a really handy one. Right, I think for this orbit we might have all of the... How are we doing for power? Oh, we're actually facing the panel away from the sun at the moment. Oh, a bit too far. I think we might have... Yeah, so we're actually close to passing back over the Space Center. Without setting up a different orbit, I don't think we're going to get any more information. So let's... As we're quite close to the Space Center, let's start doing a deorbit burn, basically. We might actually be... It might have been better to go around for another orbit. I think we'll just end up splashing down in the ocean, but that's fine. Right, have I burned out? Yes, so that's my fuel burned out. So, yeah, we're actually... Okay, no, I'd have been better doing the deorbit burn around there. I thought, oh, it's fine, we'll have enough to burn and we'll splash down here somewhere. It doesn't actually matter, to be honest. It's not of huge importance. So here we are, we're coming back down again. Valentine has done the first orbit of Gale that any Kerbal Naut has ever done. And there we go, the music's suddenly gone, so we know that we've hit atmosphere. So, what I can do... So technically we're now inside the atmosphere. We can do a crew report, and I can also have Valentina get out and do an EVA report from the upper reaches of the atmosphere. Because obviously if you try this lower down, once it's thicker, it's a bit more of a problem, because your Kerbal either going to get ripped off the craft or just going to burn up completely. But in the upper reaches of the atmosphere, it's absolutely fine. So what we're going to do when we're lower down is in fact, actually what we're going to do is, I think we'll jettison that part now, because then we've got the heat shield even available for the hotter part. I have no idea. That's got parachutes. I have no idea if the recovery mod, which I don't even know which of these... No, that's Kerbal Alarm Clock. There's so many little new buttons here that I'm not... Oh, Science Here and Now. Oh, I do have that mod. Huh, okay, I don't remember installing that, but apparently I did install that. And that's a science tracking mod. That tells me all the things that I've... okay. Does it tell me ones that I could have done but I missed out doing? Maybe? Not sure. I haven't used this mod before, so I don't know. So, yeah, apparently I have Science Here and Now, and if I just have that open, it'll tell me. So... Also have a quick look at... Yeah, we're using some of the ablator. I mean, if you've got ablator, it'll burn it off. In fact, if we look at the... there we go. So we're getting a little bit of heating on the external stuff, but the capsule itself is being completely protected by the ablator. Yeah, theoretically you don't need that, but I just decided to add it because it looks like a proper space capsule that way. That's the Frontier Hall of Fame, so that's the mod that tracks which Kerbal Nauts have done what. Okay, yeah. There's not much left to do apart from come back down in the atmosphere at this point. Yeah, MechJeb's useful for me. Like, I have coordination issues, let's put it that way. So stuff like docking, stuff like manual takeoffs, manual rocket launches. Rocket launches I can do more or less, but they're very messy. But docking, I struggle so badly with. There are other mods that help you with that. Was it Navy Fish or something like that? Yeah, there's Navy Fish's docking indicator is a popular one, which gives you a proper docking indicator window, because in vanilla KSP you're literally doing it by eye, but it gives you like a docking indicator window, and it's got like 2 target things that to match up, and so you know at the point where you are. How far are we going to come away from? Okay, still a fair distance from Space Center, but never mind. Yeah, it'll tell you, basically, and make manual docking a hell of a lot easier. Also, we're still in orbital view, apparently. Oh, okay. Chase camera bugged out there slightly. Yeah, the camera's being a little bit weird. Free camera. A little bit strange. Let's just stick with that. But yeah, MechJeb has all kinds of useful things like that. It can execute maneuver nodes for you. It can set up maneuver nodes for you. I tend to set up my own maneuver nodes a lot of the time, or maybe use MechJeb to do it and then tweak it myself. Oh, okay. Apparently we can do a temperature scan. We'll pop the chute, which will exert some drag and start to slow us down. So how are we doing for electric charge? We're fine. We'll actually rotate a little bit so we're facing the sun, and can actually transmit that data as well. And once that parachute deploys, we can actually get another EVA report. If I did it now, we're falling too fast, Valentine would simply fall off. But once the parachute deploys, you can actually pop out and take a report. So yeah, okay, this mod, this is the mod I thought I didn't have, and apparently I installed it and forgot I installed it. So Science Here and Now, it's called. It tells you exactly when you're going over somewhere that you don't have the science for already, which is very handy. So as the parachute deployed, we're actually now just very gently drifting down, so I can have Valentina get out. And at this point, you have to be very careful not to hit the spacebar by accident, because it's quite a long way to fall. She'd have to go down a couple of 100 meters, and it probably wouldn't be very good for her. Although you never know. Sometimes the Kerbals can survive, and the stock scale KSP. So that would even apply to the Galileo planet pack. They can survive falling down from orbit, which is crazy, right? But if you get them to fall on their heads. Okay, flying low over Gale's water. Oh, okay, now that just tells me my current state. It doesn't mean that I can actually get science from that. So, no, the thing I was looking for is actually... Oh, stage recovery, the stage recovery mod. So, that's showing... That's showing that we do actually get to recover, I think, the initial takeoff stage. So that's where that button's hiding. And then we've also got TAC fuel balancer, which is another useful mod, which is one that you can use to move fuel and other things around your craft in order to keep it better balanced. So we can actually run more science, and that's quite handy. You can just literally click the button up here and it'll do it for you, so I don't even have to have these pinned. Crew report, and these are all fully transmittable. And then last thing is an EVA report, and also if I let go, she has a little swim around, Oh, no, we can't get surface samples yet, can we? No, I think we need to upgrade the... yes. I think we need to upgrade the Space Center before we can actually get surface samples. So never mind. So let's... oh. Wait, did I not... Did I discard the EVA report? What did I do there? Keep experiment. Board. Yes, review stored data. I don't actually have to transmit it, but I'm going to anyway. Because I want to hear the little dee-doo-dee-doo-doo thing. The Kerbals have rocks for brains. Well, they certainly don't lack for bravery. But maybe at times that could also be construed as complete stupidity. Right, we can't take seismic scan, and we've done all the rest, so that's fine. So, recover vessel. So there we go. That's the first successful orbital flight over Gale, and nobody died. Yeah, it does kind of sound like a dial-up thing, doesn't it? It's I don't know. I find it a lot easier to bring rockets down than I do to land planes, to be quite honest. So you're more likely to see pilots getting killed than astronauts. So we recovered a bit of funds. We didn't actually directly recover that much science because I just transmitted most of it. But Valentina herself has leveled up, and also she'll get some additional ribbons and things. So EVA in Gale's waters, first surface EVA. I think she already had. Splashdown, Mach 3 ribbon, Research 3 ribbon, first Gale orbit ribbon, first EVA in space, first orbit EVA, first Gale EVA, which was for high atmosphere, I guess. Dangerous EVA, which is while we were coming down on the parachute, and then first Kerbal in space. So Valentina just earned a lot of accolades for doing all that. So, that will unlock, well, that completes one contract, so we can actually maybe take some other testing contract, perhaps. Atmospheric surveys. Explore Iota. Actually, that's one that we probably want to take. Fly by Iota, gather scientific data, return to Gale. So let's take that contract. Funds-wise, we're actually doing pretty well. Can we upgrade the VAB yet? We could. We could spend a whole bunch of funds, but we still have quite a comfortable cushion. So we've upgraded the VAB. That decreases the restrictions that we have, and also we can unlock some more science. And I don't actually have to spend funds for unlocking new parts because I was a complete scrub and forgot to turn that setting on. So, I could go for landing legs. Do we actually have any landing legs parts yet? We might need to... Oh, that would unlock the Poodle. Not the Poodle, the Terrier. The Terrier is a very useful engine because it's got very high efficiency. Hey, Cyberwraith. Yeah, there's a number of useful things. I could... go for I mean, we're just going to do a flyby of the moons. I'm not going to attempt a landing on the moons yet, so actually we don't need landing legs. We're going to progress this in stages. So we probably want this one because that gives a bunch of the life support containers. We'll unlock that for one. I'm not quite sure why it's got these little side branches off some of these technology things, but anyway. And then general construction. What does this give us? Stack adapters. Cargo bays. These are all parts of mods I've not used before, I don't think. So that's kind of structural components. Advanced rocketry gives me more rocket engines. I think we'll take advanced rocketry. Just for the more engines, basically. So, that's most of our science spent. the thing we probably want after this is like more electrical options, and we'll start working towards landers. There's also another plane group of parts that we can unlock there, including more engines. It's weird how we get jet engines in with this progression, how we get jet engines before we get propeller engines, but anyway, so that was a very successful first expedition. So we've got a flyby contract for Iota, and I'm not even sure which of the moons Iota is, so we'll have a quick look. Oh, this is the wait, where are we? That is this. Okay, yeah, there's the space center, so that would be okay. Now we won't take that particular contract because those are all quite high altitude observations it needs as well. We can't actually fulfill that contract yet, even if we wanted to. So anyway, yes. If you're wondering about that blue thing there, that's a position a satellite contract. We might actually take that. I think we now have the capability to position a small satellite. In fact, there must be 2 satellite contracts. Anyway, so Iota is the innermost moon on an equatorial orbit, and then SETI is the elliptical, well, not elliptical, what would you call that? The something moon. I did make the joke, one of the people, the 10 times scale guy, he's actually called Rocket PC Gaming. You should maybe check him out. Yeah, one of the mod creators, because the Galileo Planet Pack is obviously a multi-person collaboration. It's quite a big scale thing, you know. One person doing the whole thing, it'd have to be very dedicated. But no, it's multiple people. So it's one of the people drops in and watches him from time to time. And I was joking with them about, is it SETI Alpha 5 or SETI Alpha 6? And it took them a moment to get the joke. So, yes, we need a satellite capable of flying by Iota. So we don't actually need that much more Delta V. And we know this design can get into orbit, so we'll probably just build off this. So we'll also ditch the parachutes off that upper stage because they seemed to not survive. So we're going to call this the Twitch Orbiter Mark II. And basically we need more Delta V. Now the restrictions, as I say, have been lifted, so we now have a part count of 255, and the mass is still 140 tons because that's tied to the actual launch pad. But we also now have action groups available, but it's just the basic action groups. For custom action groups we need to upgrade the VAB once again. But what you can do, I mean, if we're not using a lander, for instance, we can use the action groups for other things. So you could use like the abort action group, for instance. You could toggle that to something else, or the landing gear action group you could toggle to something else. So you have options. So we're going to obviously keep the same cockpit. We could, I mean, the temperature. I was actually looking at this. I was speculating last time, but the temperature capacity or temperature rating of a lot of these cockpits is actually not too bad. It's more the shape of them that might be a problem, but I think we can now get, yes, we can now get a basic service bay. So what we're going to do for this, for the Mark II, is we're going to put a service bay underneath our craft, and then we can, all this stuff that's clustered on the outside at the moment, we can then stick inside the service bay. So we can get rid of that battery. Solar panels obviously still need to be on the outside, but all the science instruments can go inside the bay alongside some life support. Now, I'm probably going to completely overkill it in terms of life support. It doesn't actually tell you how much life support each of these gives. So you can get separate ones, or you can get kind of just generic life support containers. So we know there's 2 days just in the capsule itself. I might just electrical, what have we got available? Maybe not one of those big ones, but I might stick a couple of the Z400s, the larger ones, in. We're just going to very briefly put this on the pad, and I can see what margins one of those small containers adds. You also need support, life support containers that can hold the waste products, and then later on, further down the tech tree, you get kind of like recycling things available. So, oh, it says pre-launch vessel. That's actually not going to tell me. Oh, also, yes, there's science we can get from the launch pad. So we'll actually, instead of reverting, we'll actually recover the vessel. We can actually go EVA report from the launch pad and board. So it's just a tiny little, a freckle more science. That's definitely a thing. It's calling it a freckle. Yeah, I was really hoping that would tell me how much extra life support I would get from that one canister, but yeah. Oh, well, we're going to add more engines and stuff, LaFeel. It's not just going to be sticking more stuff on. Valentina actually got a ribbon for that, the 5 mission ribbon, even though it was literally just sitting on the launch pad and collecting a tiny bit of science. Yeah, also you wouldn't want to take off with these doors open because that will in fact create drag. So, yeah, how am I going to do this? So we also need a waste support container. You do have radial mount ones. Obviously these ones are a bit big, but there's like small radial mount ones as well. So you can radial mount stuff as well as having separate ones. So food, oxygen, supplies, waste container, that's the one we want. So I can hold, we have pin the command pod and use that. So we know the command pod's about 2 days worth. 1.1 food is 2 days worth for 1 Kerbal. So that suggests that 11.7 food is going to be about 23 days worth. I think what I will do, I suspect a large one, because you can have separate ones and each of the separate ones in fact carries more, but obviously then you have more weight. Whereas the life support, like the all-in-one container, just carries a bit of each kind of thing. Alright, we probably wouldn't need more than 1 support waste container. Well, what I could do is, instead of having the all-in-one thing, and it's probably completely overboard, but just have 1 each of the small containers. And for 1 Kerbal, it probably is completely overboard. And then a waste container there. So what does that do to my vessel weight? It doesn't actually even add that much, although we've lost about 200 meters of Delta V adding that stuff. But we're adding more fuel and we're going to be redoing the staging as well. Now these batteries look huge, but they'll be tucked away inside, so oh, that actually might be completely overkill. Oh no, what I can do, of course, tweak scale. I've got tweak scale. I don't want them to poke out. If we can get it to tuck in the right place, what I can do is I can tweak scale these and then they'll hold less charge, but we want them to hold more charge than the basic batteries would. So those are about 75 scale. I could also get the small batteries and scale them up, and I'm not sure what would be more expensive, but funds aren't too much of a thing. So yeah, better to have too much than too little when it comes to life support supplies, definitely. So what we can do then is put our science instruments actually inside this bay. So they're all tucked away inside, safe from re-entry heat. We can also do the same thing for our MechJeb. I think the aerial needs to be on the outside, not 100% sure. What I'll also do is toggle the abort action group to the service bay, so we can open that up in orbit if we have to. Not that I think we will have to, but anyway. Right, this is going to make the top of the capsule a little bit heavier. What does that do to our weight? 1.4 tons. We're not carrying any. No, we're not carrying any monoprop. So I might want to add maybe a second parachute or something. So that's extra power, extra life support, probably way more life support than I need. And what we're going to do is then add more power generation, because that's also a thing that we need. Oh. So just a few more solar panels. We'll also bodge the if I can grab it, the antenna over a bit, just so it's not clipping through. So more power generation. I don't think the capsule itself needs anything more. The other thing I could do is actually swap out the capsule for a two-man capsule, but obviously that then means those supplies are going to go less far because it's going to be two Kerbals. But I've probably, as I say, it's probably complete overkill. I think what I'll do is we'll try just the single occupant design. Now, these are all heavier capsules as well, so we'll bear that in mind. Although in the case of, say, this Mark 1 cockpit, it's not that much heavier. But yeah, it'll look a bit like having that as being a spacecraft cockpit, but it's got almost like the temperature tolerance isn't that far off. And capsules, you can scale them up, but it's not like it then carries more passengers. You can actually look at the crew thing there and it says, yeah, it's still only one passenger. So there's no point to scaling up or down your capsules, because it's only going to screw with things like them getting in and out the door, for instance. And if you make it bigger, where that wouldn't be an issue, then suddenly you're just carrying around a lot of extra weight for no particular reason. Did my internet get better? No, sadly it didn't. It hasn't gotten any better since my upgrade to my current package, which, when even was that? It's like last year? I can't remember now. But yeah, sadly no, it's not magically better or anything. So for this upper stage, we're going to swap out the engine and I think probably give it a different fuel tank. So that's 108, 180, so we'll put one of those on. We'll go for a Terrier, which vacuum delta V 2000 meters a second, so that's basically, that's going to be, you know, this is the stage that's going to be breaking orbit from Gale, going to Iota, and then we're only doing a flyby, so we'll sort of break back in and kill off some of the speed as we're coming back in. But that 2000 meters a second delta V ought to be more than enough. I'm pretty sure the Terrier still has a better ISP, which is the efficiency. So yeah, vacuum ISP 345, and the engine it's replacing has got 320. Oh no, that's the wrong engine. What's the engine that it did have? This engine, 335. So it's marginally better. It's less thrust, but it is marginally better. So yeah, it's got a max vacuum thrust of 60 kilonewtons, but that doesn't matter. That just means you have to burn for longer, and higher efficiency is more important. So just swapping out that engine and putting a better fuel tank in that stage means that suddenly we've gained about 700 delta V. But I think we'll also maybe add a little more to that mid stage. We'll swap out that little fuel tank there. What does that add? That's a little bit more delta V. I just want this bottom stage to get us... I could make this a 3-stage rocket, but there's probably not much point in making it a 3-stage rocket. We want us to get this to get us most of the way to space, basically. I might just completely overkill it because funds are not particularly an issue. In terms of the game difficulty settings, I really don't have to worry about funds too much. Okay, so with the same LVT swivel, TWR is 1.26, so it's going to be quite a slow takeoff. We might actually want to put on some basic solid fuel boosters just to give us that kick off the pad. Now I could use the standard radial decouplers, but there's also, as an option, these structural pylon decouplers. So I might, just for flavour, I think I might use these instead. So, right, that staging has to be there. Okay, that staging is all correct. And these we need to drag there, so that's fine. Delta V is your... I can't remember the exact actual thing, but it represents the amount of velocity change that you have available the enemy. Like the thing with rockets is you're not only carrying the stuff on the rocket up to wherever you want to go, but you've got to carry all the stuff that powers the rocket. So the bigger the rocket, not necessarily is better, because you've then got to carry more stuff in the form of the fuel that powers the rocket. So at some point it becomes not worth it. And this is why rockets that we send up to orbit, like the space shuttle didn't exactly have humongous amounts of delta V once it got up to orbit. It had enough to deorbit and get back down, and there weren't very big margins built in, because it's just like any extra that you add in has to be paid for multiple fold in terms of getting it up there to begin with. So it represents change in velocity, basically. So what we can do is maybe a couple of cheap hammer thrusters, which add very little, and also it's slightly wigged out, and I don't know why. Why, KSP, why are you doing... What? Okay, there we go, it's doing it properly. That was slightly odd. Right, so these would burn for about 20 seconds. We can actually maybe scale that down slightly. We just want a bit of kick off the launch pad. We might even just stick some... Oh, you know what? Because we've got the part recovery mod, we can stick some parachutes on those. Where are we? Parachutes. Oh, that's new. Scan radar altimetry sensor. I think that's part of the scan sat. Yeah, that's the... Okay, so we can put up a... We can start to put up scanning satellites at this point. So that's something we might do as well, is put a scanning satellite in a polar orbit, but I'm probably going to completely struggle. Oh, Science Junior. We've also got now access to the Science Junior, which we probably want to take. It's going to add a bunch of weight, though. But the ability to... The thing with the Science Junior is it's a one-shot. Like all the other things we've got so far are... how much does that add? Because it's not... I think we can we scale the... It feels a bit cheap, but we can scale the Science Junior and actually have it weigh less. Which I don't think will give us, like, you know, less science, but we could do this. We could have a tiny little Science Junior on the nose. Which, it's the Science Junior Junior. Well, that looks so wonky. I'd actually better check also. Ooh. No, I'm grabbing the wrong part. There we go. What does that do to the centre of mass? We want the centre of mass to be towards the bottom, basically. So that when we're re-entering the atmosphere, the capsule... Yeah, that does bodge it up a bit. So we won't stick that on the nose. But the question is... Oh. The question is, where do I stick the Science Junior? I could just have it be the... Oh. What am I doing? I could have it be the regular size, but have it be below, like, part of this stage here. 2159. Right, I'll make that the regular. Oh, I need to actually have that below the decoupler if we're going to do it this way. That does cost a fair bit of delta V having the Science Junior, but it's also going to bring back a fair wodge of science. It's going to be difficult to squash it into that service bay. There's not exactly a lot of room in there right now. 1800 funds for the part as well. But at this stage, I don't think it is recoverable. Right, 2026 meters a second delta V should still be fine. I've got 5000 meters a second delta V overall. I got completely distracted from putting parachutes on these, but I don't know if scaling those up is more or less expensive. This is one of the things where, like, you're not sure. Okay, so using a pair of those is less expensive. Some of the basic parts, if you scale them up, it makes them actually quite expensive. I tell you, the other thing we could do is use the universal storage instead of that thingy bay. But I think that might be overkill because the universal you can't even say universal storage segments are okay. Those actually come as separate parts. I've not used universal storage in so long. I guess they're supposed to still clip inside though. Universal storage hydrogen tank. I don't think we're actually using hydrogen as a thing, so... fuel cell. I think we'll leave universal storage for now. But we might come back to that we might use that in some future design. Right, so this is essentially the same rocket with some extra bits and gubbins and things swapped in and out. Should be more or less fine, I think. We might, as one last thing, maybe we want to stick on, what's the data transmission rate? Okay, the 16S and the Cumulotron 16, they're both basically the same. So we'll stick with a basic thing. Okay, I think this should be fine. Oh yeah, those parachutes need to be in the correct stage, but apart from that, so we've got about a minute's burn time on these. In fact, we could maybe bodge that up to 50% because it's gonna mess up the aerodynamics a bit. Should we say? Okay, we'll say 60. 40 seconds burn time. It's just extra thrust off the pad, and then by the time we ditch them, it'll be we'll be high up enough that we don't actually need them anymore. Look at that silhouette. Well, that's not suggestive at all. So, should we send up Valentina, or should we give our other aspiring pilot a go? Let's give Elidith Kerman a shot at glory. Let's try this out. So, we immediately could do a materials study, but we're not going to. We're going to save that for when we get to around Iota, I think. Because that'll be worth more science. So, yeah, we're just, okay, I guess we'll just go, I think. Just double check the staging very quickly. Yeah, that's all fine. Right, let's get out of here. Let's blow this popsicle stand. And let's see if I can't at least point in the right direction, more or less. Right, am I pointing the right way? I think so. Ish. Not sure. I know I've showed designs a little bit like this previously. I seem to remember we named a rocket Tallywhacker 1 in a previous stream. There's a slight reference to Austin Powers. So we're almost done with those parts, so we'll actually get the funds recovered from them. And we're already almost 10 kilometers up, and we're just going through the 4,000 meters a second delta V mark, so that's fine. Right, we need to, oh yeah, we're not actually pitching over nearly enough now, are we? We need to be, we need a lot more sideways. We've got plenty of up, we need way more sideways. You need sideways and up. It's very complicated. So, apoapsis, yeah, 25, so that's going up nicely. About a minute left burn time on this stage. We want to get this... Like we need to... my idea is that we use this stage to get up as far as possible, because I want to keep as much delta V in that stage for actually getting us around Iota and back. So 40 kilometers. Oh, we're actually launching into... I'm managing to launch myself into a polar orbit. That's okay. Let's revert flight. That's not what we want at all, because the amount of delta V required to plane change to Iota from a polar orbit. It's not quite a polar orbit, but that's not what we want. It's really not what we want. So wait, we want to sort of be pointing the rocket that way, but realistically, it's probably going to be more like pointing it that way, because I suck at handling rockets, as we all know. So let's do that again. Yeah, I was looking at the nav ball, and this is the part where I get really confused, is the nav ball direction versus the actual direction that I want to go in. Right, I think this is more correct this time. Ish, not sure. I just have to remember it's the A key that I have to press. Menthol, we have MechJeb, but MechJeb in career mode, like unless you go and do some tinkering, it unlocks the functions as you go along, basically. Oh, shoot destroyed by aero forces and heat. So we just fried the parachutes on those stages, so much for recovery. Whoops. Maybe if I had those mounted further up, but if I had them mounted further up, that would cause its own problems. Oh, no, wrong key. Press the A key. So, hopefully We're not launching into a polar orbit this time. No, this is still a highly skew-if orbit. You know what it is? It's because I rotated the thing inside the vehicle assembly. Yeah, let's actually revert to the vehicle assembly. Re-rotate it. And maybe fiddle with yeah. Yeah, you can, like, if you absolutely can't get by without MechJeb in career mode, then it is entirely possible to go and manually edit the progression unlock, so you basically have MechJeb from the very first node. But I can at least get by enough to get to orbit. It's when it comes to things like making landings, doing docking, you know, but by that time, generally speaking, I have enough science to have unlocked those functions in MechJeb anyway. So it keeps me in practice a bit. You know, every time I start a new career, I've got to do manual launches because it's not going to work otherwise. Also, I didn't actually set those correctly. They need to have the... You need to slightly adjust the minimum pressure thing for it to work properly with the recovery mod, so it wouldn't have worked anyway. So let's try that. Fingers crossed, this should go better. Right. Right, we want to pitch that way, so I want to hit the W key. I can manage the WASD keys. It's when you have to do combinations thereof that things get very, very tricky, and suddenly the rockets don't quite do what I want the rockets to do. So we're just pitching over a little bit. It's fighting against me, partly because I've got the kill rotation thing on, but also because, whoa. Oh, that was really fighting against me. I'm not sure why. Okay. Saying I can do an EVA report, but I think... I can't even remember the pilot's name now. It's not Valentina, but anyway, yeah, I think our brave astronaut might not be quite that brave to get out and do a science report right at this moment. Right, perhaps it's 20 kilometers. Oh. 25 kilometers. How are we doing? About 70 seconds on this stage. Not so much fried as just like immediately she'd be ripped off the capsule and tumble to her death, which I'm not sure she'd be very happy about. And plus, you know, there's all the paperwork to fill out, and the unions get very unhappy about these things as well. Although fortunately the Kerbal Naut union is they're not particularly strong. Like, we keep killing all these Kerbal Nauts, and they mostly just shrug their shoulders. Apparently Kerbals are really keen on getting into space, so the safety regulations are more than a little bit lax. Right, 50 kilometers. I think we're going to be able to get high enough to use at least a bit of fuel from this stage to help circularize. So there we go, 73 kilometers. We're also going to be on that slightly inclined orbit, but I think we ought to be able to get an encounter, I hope. So that would take me to 90 kilometers, so we need to point ourselves actually at the thing. It's saying an estimated burn time of 40 seconds, but that's calculated for using this engine, and of course we're actually about to, you know, we're going to ditch that stage, so we're basically going to start burning right now, because we're going to need And I'm completely guessing, by the way, that I've got enough delta V in this upper stage. It might not be the case at all. I think so. Okay, we're going to be using about 600 meters a second. That stage there will then go back down into fall back to Kerbin, but it's got the parachutes, so it might be all right. Let's also just turn on the capsule light. Right, and also we want the life support panel up. Okay, yeah, 71 days remaining of food. Water and oxygen are both over 100 days remaining. So that's with the separate canisters. So we could easily stick a dual-person cockpit on top of this and have more than enough. Oh, we've actually wasted some delta V there. I wasn't paying attention. I was too busy looking at the life support panel. So that's fine. So we're in orbit once again. We also got a message there. Oh, that's a stage recovery. So that's where it tells you about stage recovery, is through the message panel. So I'm going to quick save and then right, we're on an incline, but I think theoretically we ought to be able to get a flyby of Iota if we jiggle around for long enough. Right, it's going to take about... Oh yeah, okay, we've got more than enough delta V for a flyby. We're not actually trying to orbit Iota. We're just sort of doing this in stages. Now this is one thing that, like, this part of the interface could definitely use some work. Normally, if I've got the function available, I just use mechjeb to set up the encounter, because otherwise you just kind of like fiddling around to try and figure out exactly when you're going to get one. So now that's above the plane, so that's no good. Just wondering, okay, how much would it take to circularize? And that's horribly wasteful, in fact, circularizing, but the chances of me getting a perfectly equatorial launch are incredibly slim. So it's around about there. We'll basically be doing that, and then okay, 346. Ooh, I'm not sure we have enough delta V to circularize in orbit and then also fly around Iota, because that's about 900, and then God, that would be cutting it awfully fine. We'll quick save and we'll try this, and it might not work at all. But we'll give it a go. So, yeah, what you really want to do is you want to select your inclination when you're taking off. But this is one of the things where if I'm trying to go into a, like in vanilla KSP, it doesn't matter. You're on the equator. You basically take off at right angles. But because the launch site itself is kind of like at 45 degrees or whatever, you then have to compensate every time you take off. And as we've established, I'm really rubbish at that. So let's just warp ahead. Who's making terrible puns that needs to be banned? It's interrupting every time because of the materials bay. The science here now is interrupting the time warp every time we go over a new biome. But we're saving the materials bay until we're in space over Iota, basically. Also, I think we got the... Yeah, we did. We actually got the recovery from that... Yeah, from the stage that went back down into the atmosphere. So we actually recovered all that. That's quite nice. So that did in fact work. So very short burn time. So yeah, this is very wasteful in terms of delta V, circularizing in low orbit especially, massively wasteful. This is not good practice at all. But I might just have to build in the delta V up until the point where I can get MechJeb to start making launches for me. At that point, I'm usually fed up of doing manual launches anyway, because that's not why I play KSP, to be quite honest. It's the executing of the missions rather than taking rockets off over and over and over and over. Gets a bit boring after a while. So about 15 seconds to go. Valentina's... not Valentina, I keep calling her Valentina. Our pilot. It started with an E. It was like... it was an Anglo-Saxon kind of a name. It was like Ethelbert or something. Anyway, so... Ethelbert, that's definitely her name. Ethelberda? That's probably an Anglo-Saxon name as well, probably. So, burning away our precious delta V, and if we don't have enough left for our iota insertion, then obviously that's a bit of a problem. What we should... oh, no, actually, slightly burned too much there, but that's fine. Right, okay, we're not dipping back in the atmosphere or anything like that. Orbital inclination is 2 degrees. It's not quite the 0 degrees that we want, but... theoretically we have enough, but it leaves us with a very tight margin. A very, very tight margin. But the fact that we are... oh, that's an encounter, but that's not a flyby encounter. That's a flinging off into Transkerbinian space encounter, so we need to bring that back in. Oh. So this is the part where having MechJeb do this for you is incredibly useful, because then you're not just fiddling around with nodes for forever and ever. Right, what's the periapsis of that encounter? Because we don't want to actually smack into iota. That would be bad. So let's squeeze that down a bit. Iota periapsis 300,000. Okay. Right, I think... can we scooch that round a bit? It's not really making that much of a difference. Anyway, we will fly by iota. It'll be fairly high over iota, but that doesn't really matter for the contract. And that will give us enough delta V to then reinsert into the atmosphere of Kerbin, at which point I've just had a thought. Do we have enough ablator? I think so. I think there's enough ablator, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, we've quick saved, and we can always revert if it all goes horribly wrong, because this is still in the phase of I'm hoping this is all fine, but I don't actually know if the design capability of this rocket is correct yet. So keep tabs on our... oh, right. Okay, oh, we need to actually point the right way, and we need to burn it around about the 20-second mark. So it's a little over 40 seconds for the entire burn. And it's most of our delta V, but that's fine. This is the part where the fact we're carrying like way more food and water and everything, it becomes a little bit of a hindrance, because it means we're actually carrying way more than we need, which is just wasted delta V, but it's fine. A little over-engineering never hurt anybody. I'm glancing at the chat every so often, and I don't even know. I don't even know what's going on, and it's probably just better not to ask. So, here we are. Burning along on our way to Iota for the very first time. And we'll be able to get some crew reports and send some science off along the way. But yeah, the thing that made me think about maybe not having enough ablator is I didn't actually change the... We're sitting at a total of 80 out of a possible of 200 ablator. And it might be enough for coming back down, but it might not be. Anyway, almost done with the burn. Right, so, in theory, that gives us our... Yeah, so we've got an encounter, but it's going to fling us off in a really weird fashion. But we've got 171 meters a second delta V left, which I think should be fine. So if we warp ahead, it's 2 days, 5 hours. We have so much. It's just interrupting every time. Oh, so we can slash there, and we can actually grab some science. We obviously won't do the materials science, but we can do... Okay, so space high over Gale. So this is extra set of science data that we can send off into the ether. Oh, wait, why do we have no electric charge? Oh, this is bad. This is very, very bad. Okay. This is... Oh, Elodith Kerman. Right, Elodith, I need you to, like, kind of nudge the... Can we get it to roll? Especially she can't hang onto the ladder and, like, use her EVA propellant to just basically roll the thing. But that's basically what we need to happen right now. We need her to roll the capsule so that the solar panels are pointing towards the sun. Otherwise, she's going to freeze to death, which is not really optimal. Yeah, because I don't have solar panels like ringed all the way around it. Oh, why was it bucking back there? I don't know, but we've got a bit of a rotation going, and that's what we need. Right, so that's fine. We just need the solar panels to... We just need to roll it so the solar panels face the sun. Because if you're without power for too long, with intact life support... Right, kill rotation. That's fine. Yeah, that's the thing I should have been aware of. It's been so long since I've played without the... with a life support mod. So, that nearly went very badly wrong. But that's fine. And also, we can also have her pop out and very briefly grab an EVA report. So, shh, don't tell anybody. That didn't happen. I didn't just make a really basic mistake of running out of power or anything. That's a lie. It's a complete lie. So yeah, we've got power going back in. There is a small amount of leeway. It's not like when you instantly go down to 0 power. I think you've got about 5 minutes. Like the life support mod's actually quite lenient, but obviously if you're in time warp and your power runs out, that 5 minutes can just go, you know, it can just vanish. So yeah, this entire design, it does need more delta V if we want to do what I did, you know, get into orbit, correctly match planes, and then get to Iota and then orbit Iota. But that's purely because of my own terrible piloting. I think if I wasn't a terrible pilot, it might well have enough for an Iota capture and then return, but maybe not. It might still actually need a bit more delta V besides what it already has. So yeah, we're just letting the solar panels fill up basically. We can time warp a little bit, and of course they'll fill up even quicker. Although I should keep an eye on... That's fine, I'll actually keep it in this view for a bit. And time warp time is 50. So yeah, we've got plenty of power generation, we've got plenty of like battery capacity. It's just I have to keep an eye on not letting the solar panels actually do that. Well, once you get extendable solar panels, It's fine, LaField, because then the solar panels, you can place them on each side and they'll track, but for the moment we've only got the basic surface mount solar panels. And I can't stick them all over the capsule because then they'd be over the crew hatch. Although I could have stuck a couple on the actual the stack, the fuel tank below, so that you've got like at least always one solar panel facing in each direction. But then if you're facing prograde or not prograde, retrograde, that's the word. How did I not remember that? Obviously you can still be in a situation where your solar panels are occluded, where they don't have any sunlight reaching them. So yeah, until you get to deployable solar panels, even if you stick solar panels all around your craft, it's still entirely possible to orient yourself so you're not actually getting any electrical power. So yes, a bit of caution is definitely needed. Also, why did we drop out of time warp? Not sure. In fact, we can probably just click on the do it this way, go warp here. So yeah, we've got so much like food and oxygen and everything. And actually, as we consume it, I think we might creep up a little bit in terms of the amount of delta V we have available. It might. Yeah, you can kind of cheat, by the way, if you're using the life support thing and then TAC fuel balancer. TAC fuel balancer has an option for basically like venting fuel. You can dump fuel, which sometimes is useful if you're carrying excess, like you wind up with monopropellant, or if you're in a space plane and you get up to orbit and it's like, well, now I don't need all this oxidizer because I'm using a nuclear rocket or whatever. But you can also, I think, yeah, you could tell it to dump the waste products. So that actually would be quite cheaty. We're not going to do that. But yeah, if you've got TAC fuel balancer and TAC life support installed at the same time, you could completely cheat and just dump the I mean, having said that, it's sort of cheating and it's sort of not. Because in real life, with the real life moonshots, like for the space station, for instance, they keep everything and send it back down in the when the supply rockets come up, and the stuff like the American part of the station, they actually have recyclers for things like urine as well and other wastewater, but for the moon missions for Apollo, they actually for solid waste, I think they actually kept it in the spacecraft, but for urine, they vented it. They could vent it out into space. They had a system for doing that. So it kind of makes sense that you would be able to vent some of this stuff, just dump it out into space. But it still feels a little bit cheaty, even so. Right, so we're almost within the influence, the sphere of influence of actually jump ahead, and we will be flying by Iota. You want me to unmodel a field so you can time him out? See, I think I could do that, Sombra, but then I'd have to, I'd have to be fair. I'd have to then remod him and unmod you just so he could get his revenge. This is how lifelong feuds start, I think. Right, science here and now, really, it seems to just completely interrupt, which is fine, but there are times when you want to zoom forward and not interrupt because we're saving this materials bay, goddammit. Of course, later on, once I get experienced scientists and I can send multi-crew ships out, it's fine because I think, is it level 1 or level 2 scientists can actually reset the single-use science experiments, so it's not really an issue. And of course, if you've got a science lab, you can also do it from that way. Will you just warp? If I actually close the here and now alert panel, that does it. Okay, so we can actually do that. So there we go. We've got the little thing. So we're actually now in a flyby by Iota. We're gonna have. It's going to fling us in quite an odd direction, but we're sort of coming in underneath because I've got that 2-degree inclination. I wasn't coming from a perfect 0-degree inclination orbit. So, can we actually... Oh, there it is. So there's Iota off in the distance. And this is the point where we can bring up it's this one. So we can start to do things. So we can do material study. We'll do... What's going to be our... Periapsis 62. So we're going to have basically the opportunity to do high and low scans, pardon me, over Iota. But I think what we'll do is we'll use the materials bay for a high space study, as it were. So crew report, it's going to let me do and keep that. We're not time warping or anything. It's not letting me. That's odd. Okay, the buttons are greyed out, but the science is certainly... We might have to just pin the barometer and the thermometer, because for some reason the buttons are greyed out in the... No, I keep hitting the wrong one there. Right. Okay, so temperature... So those we can just transmit. And the barometer data we can transmit. And crew report we can transmit. This is the point where having lots of battery capacity is good. And we can also grab an EVA report. The materials bay, though, we actually need to grab the science out of that manually. And we're going to keep that to bring back to Kerbin. Because if you transmit that, you start to lose the data. So review stored data, transmit that, EVA report, transmit that. Okay. Why is it saying I haven't? I thought I had done those. Okay. Apparently not. Temperature scan. Could have sworn I did, but never mind. And then materials bay. Well, we've done that already. So what we'll do is we'll. I won't even have to remember because it's got the thing that actually tells me it's done it. But if we turn on the lights, there we go. So we can have collect data, remove data. So that's now inoperable. That's the one shot of that that's kind of been used without a scientist to make it operable again. So that particular bit of data is just going to sit in the capsule until we come back. So that's fine. So what we can do is we can just actually make sure before we do warp that, okay, we can keep the panels pointed the right way. We're going to warp to periapsis, at which point we're going to be going low over the moon. So this is, if we could do the same thing we did over Kerbin, is potentially if we were in orbit you could just pop out and get the EVA. Right, so this, is it still counting as... I'd have thought we're still space high over Iota, but we're only 63 kilometers above the surface. We're also not really getting a good view of Iota right now, unfortunately. But yeah, the textures on the planets. Let's see if we can like just scroll out massively. Oh, it doesn't look so good from this angle. Also, we're looking towards the pole there, where the textures all get squished up anyway, just because of the nature of KSP. But yeah, oh well, never mind. I probably could have brought us even closer past the surface, and we'd have gotten more science out of this. That's a bit unfortunate. I figured 62 kilometers would be close enough. to count as space near iota. Oh, there we go. You get some idea of the texture. So yeah, the textures. These are, I think, 4K textures. But yeah, EVA report's still going to be the same. But there are plans afoot for an 8K texture version of the Galileo planet pack. So it's going to look even nicer. Obviously, with the orbit view, you don't get the full, of it, but it's pretty good. It is pretty good. So that's it for our flyby of Iota. We now just need to come back to Gale, so we can speed things up once again, and we'll just make a little. Fingers crossed there is enough Delta V available. Right, actually, we can close the science alert thing for now, because we're basically there's no more science to be had for the time being. So this is the part where we just point retrograde and hope that we have enough Delta V. We should do. There should be enough Delta V to bring us back down to Kerbal orbit. And we're just going to basically we're not, we don't have enough to reorbit to reorbit Gale. So what we're going to be doing is I think we will try for a bit of aero braking. Oh god, this is cutting awfully close. Right, 50 kilometers. Actually, let's swing prograde. We'll make it. That's a tiny burn. I've got just a little teaspoonful of fuel left. Right, about 54. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll aero brake, and we have a mere 26 meters a second Delta V. But if we have to make multiple aero braking passes, we absolutely do have the. Oh, we can't get it in this view. No, I don't want that as a target. Right. There we go. We absolutely have the life support capability to make multiple aero brake passes, but it's a bit of a pain doing multiple aero brake passes. It just means what will happen is we'll be coming in. Actually, I'll keep that up because we'll need to keep an eye on the power situation. Yeah, we'll need to keep an eye on how much heat we're generating on the way through, but it should be fine. I'm not feeling confident that I've got enough ablator to just come straight back from Iota, so this is why I'm going to try a bit of aero braking first. So we can time warp till we hit the top of the atmosphere. Power wise, we're doing absolutely fine. Life support's absolutely fine. So I can actually warp in the atmosphere. I think once you do that, it counts as physics warp rather than time warp. Oh, that's the science bay is already heating up. I don't know if closing the doors. Okay, closing the doors on the science bay actually does make a difference. Theoretically. And we're going to be keeping a sharp eye on this. Theoretically, at about this height, 55, it's not enough atmosphere to actively make things explode. But what is happening is it's going to start dropping the apoapsis right down to the point where we basically want to bleed off orbital velocity and drop the apoapsis, and then we've got enough fuel to give ourselves a final little nudge to get back in the atmosphere. So we're not ditching this bottom stage yet, just because A, it's acting as an impromptu heat shield, essentially. Because if we were using the actual heat shield, it would be burning off a bit of the ablator, and we want to save the ablator for the final re-entry. So we've got loss of signal. That's fine. We're actually now sort of through the worst part of it. And as you can see, the parts, they heated up a little bit, but they really didn't get that hot at all. So we dropped about 10 million meters, I think. Or is that kilometers? I think must be millions of miles rather than... I don't know. I think that must be miles rather than meters. So basically, yeah, we just keep repeating ad nauseam. Not quite ad nauseam, but okay. So it's about a 4-day round trip. So we can afford to do this a couple of times with the amount of life support that we have. So it's a more efficient way of returning, but it's safer is the main thing. But it can be more efficient way as a way of returning. So yeah, this can take a little while. Hopefully it won't take too long. I think once we've done this, I'll probably wrap up the stream there, because that'll have been my first 2 successful manned missions. So here we go. Burning off velocity once again. Apoapsis dropping down. It starts to drop less dramatically the more it drops, but it's the loss of velocity is the thing that we're most interested in. It's just burning off velocity. And the periapsis itself will slowly drop as well as we're losing velocity and breaking through the atmosphere. So that time we only lost about 4 million. If not even that. And at some point what we can do, if it looks like we're going to run out of life support, is when we're at apoapsis, we just use that tiny little cough of fuel to bring the periapsis down. And that becomes our final re-entry. At which point we have to just cross our fingers and hope it all goes according to plan. Right, oh, we actually need to cancel that before we can do the yeah, we need to go physics warp before we can do time warp kind of thing. So how's chat doing? Have you all been enjoying this? Because I've been enjoying this. Oh, hello. Clouds just disappeared for a second there. Not sure why. I'm sure quite a lot of people have either been watching Circon or Jingles. I don't even know if Jingles is still going, but I decided I was going to stream anyway because I just felt like streaming some KSP, and I've already done and finished. I actually finished uploading the video for tomorrow. I'd hoped it was going to be today's video, and then it was just taking way longer to do in the morning than I thought it would. So unfortunately, my plan to get it finished in the morning and then uploaded to go on YouTube in the evening just didn't work out. Mostly because it took, I don't even know how many attempts to record a 12-minute video, and I had to stop for lunch at some point as well. So there were other things to do in the day. He is still playing Mass Effect. Okay. Also, I'll have you know, I've killed only 1 Kerbal so far. That barely counts as a mass killing. It was a very selective killing. I'm always highly picky about the people that I choose to murder. Or no, I've said too much. Right, so the apoapsis is about to drop inside 10 million. So we're not burned off a huge amount of orbital velocity, but it is steadily dropping. You can see it was out beyond the, we did a flyby of Iota, so we've already lost half of that. And every time we do this, the orbital period is getting less as well, so in terms of the life support margin is absolutely fine. We could do this so many times. I've got food remaining 54 days, that's the bottleneck. I think that your Kerbal can survive like 7 days without food. Water and air, however, I think you get like 2 or 3 days without water, and then without air and power, those will kill you very quickly indeed. Understandably, you get about 5 minutes without air, and possibly slightly longer without power. Not sure. So far is the watchword. Well, that's true. I might bring the whole thing crashing back down on the space center and just basically kill everybody. Always a possibility. Oh, hello. Oh, that's because we were warping, I guess. That suddenly started showing the science bay heating up, but I think that was a quirk of the physics warp. So that's another 1.5, nearly 2. Is that 1.7? No, we're actually getting towards 2. Another 2 million dropped, so that's fine. So we shouldn't have to do this more than another couple of times. You made a straw poll on this design. It definitely needs some tweaking. I need to make sure there is more ablator, and if we want to get into orbit around Iota, I'm going to have to add more delta V as well. But even with all that, it's not going to be a particularly expensive design. Like we've got with the difficulty options I unwittingly picked because I didn't properly think about it when I was starting at the start of the first stream. Funds are definitely not going to be an option. Not an option? Not a problem. I know what I mean. Kind of. Yeah, we're not going to have an issue with running out of funds at all. Upgrading the space center ought to be relatively easy. Oh, yeah, oh, wow, that really heats up in... Hello. Okay, that really heats up in physics warp for the initial part of the... I don't know, you have to be careful with that. I don't want to explode the science bay because that, you know, that's connecting the fuel tank to the cupola. That would be bad. So this looks like about another million and a half dropped off the apoapsis. Yeah, near versus far. I guess you have to get a lot closer because I swear if you're going to the Mun, getting to within... What was it? 63 kilometers was the closest. I think that would count as being low orbit, or you know, that would count as close space rather than far space within the orbital influence. So it must be different for Iota because it's definitely higher than that for the Mun. So 51 days of food remaining. I think. I still can't remember her name. Elspeth. We'll just call her Elspeth. That's totally her name. Our Kerbal Naut Elspeth. Because it's slightly cut off the bottom. Although if I... Oh, wait. If I... Oh, there we go. If I mouse over, it actually tells me her name. Elideth. Eildeth? Eilidith? I don't even know how to pronounce that. We'll just stick with Elspeth, to be quite honest. At least I can pronounce Elspeth. And also, it's a good Scottish name. So, you know, this is the Scottish Space Programme. Well, whatever the Gale equivalent of Scotland would be. But, yeah, she only brought one novel with her, and she's read it several times over by this point, so she's probably getting a bit bored. Whoa! No! God damn it! Okay, that's definitely a bug. That shouldn't happen. Okay, so that's a problem. That shouldn't have happened, but that's because we were physics warping. Right, is this eating ablator? It is even though we've got this there, it's still eating ablator. So now we're hopelessly unpowered. God damn it. This is all going to take rather longer than I'd hoped. The important bits are all in the capsule, so that's fine. It's just we lost that tiny bit of delta V that we were going to use to make adjustment, and it was our heat shield. Yeah, that was because I was physics warping, and it doesn't like you physics warping with the science bays, apparently. That's really annoying. So how much... That's cost us a tiny bit of a blader. We might as well just jettison that, to be quite honest. That's not actually serving any purpose. So yeah, that's... Oh, okay. Now we've actually... Having jettisoned that, we're now actually losing more ablator. So we'll be losing ablator when we make these passes. And this is the part where me saying, well, you don't actually need the ablator to enter the atmosphere from orbit, will become very relevant. So now we have no choice but to keep aerobraking. And I don't think I even dropped a quick save before we started doing the aerobraking. So this is our life now. We're just aerobraking and aerobraking and aerobraking. And this is the stage where it's like, thank God that I completely overcompensated with life support. Whoops. It's fine though. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. This is still completely fine, and Elspeth is going to be fine, and everything is fine. It's just going to take an annoyingly long time. And it's a case of, can we get her down, or do we run out of life support? But the fact that we've still got 50 days of life support means we've got about 50 orbits. If we can't get the capsule down inside of 50 orbits, then we seriously have a problem. Yeah, we're still flying half ship. Well, this is the part that was supposed to come in to land anyway. So it's just we're not going to be getting the use of the heat shield because we're just successively losing the ablator. Because we didn't even need to use the ablator for this. That's what we were using the engine bell of the LV909 for. But yeah, this is the part that maybe has me like the capsule might get slightly toasty as it's coming back down. Yeah. My patience is also a limiting factor. But we have to see this through now. We have to. I don't have a choice. At which point, this actually does seem like a good point, rather, to go and grab myself a drink of water then, because we might be here a little bit longer than I was expecting. Well done, me. Apologies for the squeaky door. I'm sure everybody heard that. So yeah, Elspeth seems in good spirits at least. She doesn't seem disheartened by the fact that everything's not going according entirely to plan. But, you know, that's Kerbal Space Program. You make it up as you go along and cross your fingers and hope that it all works out okay. As long as we've still got a parachute to come down with, it's fine. And we are actually, you know, we've shed a significant amount of our orbital velocity. And the apoapsis, we're now down to, we're approaching 2 million miles rather. I think it's million. Must be million. Oh, it's meters. I think it's meters. Must be megameters, so. So it's 2 million kilometers. Why am I saying miles? It's 2 million kilometers. I've been saying miles when I meant kilometers. Anyway. Yeah. So that's just steadily dropping and dropping and dropping. And we have so much life support. And it's fine. It's fine. It's all fine. I don't know why you're all so convinced it's all going to go horribly wrong. Just because it's me playing it and I managed to kill somebody in the very first stream. Could happen to anybody. Completely messing up a landing. And killing everybody. Oh yeah. The mission control, they basically told her this is all part of the plan. She doesn't know. She's blissfully unaware. They've told us that they told her this is entirely what was supposed to be happening. I could actually have the science alert thing. The winner with 3 votes to 1 was cake. Well, you can never go wrong with cake. Damn it! Now I wish I had cake. I don't have cake. Somebody go and get me some cake. Sadly, there are no late night cake shops on the Isle of Lewis. So, unless you happen to have your own cake, or the ability to make your own cake, then, yeah, you're a bit out of luck. I think it's just if I hadn't physics warped with the the first couple of times it was okay, and then I didn't catch it in time that last time with the physics warping in the high atmosphere. That was what caused it. It was basically a KSP. You know, it's not even really a bug because the game does warn you that if you physics warp in the atmosphere, that it can cause some wonky behaviors. So we're about to run out of ablator, at which point it just becomes a visual thing. But it should be fine. We should be okay breaking without the ablator. I think the service bay can take it. Let's actually have a quick check. So yeah, the service bay is rather warm. But at the end of the day, even if the service bay explodes, it's the capsule that's the important bit. So that's not so bad. So we're dropping down to 1,000,000 meters. Do I mean kilometers? No, 1,000,000 meters. That's 1,000 kilometers, I think. I'm just getting so confused with my, I've probably been saying just all the wrong numbers the entire time. So 1,000, that must be 1,000. Well, I was just saying 1,000,000 earlier. 1,000,000 would be much higher. So yeah, 1,000 kilometers, and before it was 2,000 kilometers. And I was saying 2,000,000 miles. Yeah, that totally makes sense. It's late. That's my excuse. It's late, and I'm craving cake now. at least put a ring on one of us when we start ordering us around. No, I'll order you around now. Because that's how I roll. Or something. Cake roll. Anyway. Time warp once again. The orbital period is now so short that we could do this so many times. We're not going to run out of life support. We're absolutely not going to run out of life support. And we've burned off just by... how many passes has this been? I can't remember. I've lost count. But we've burned off like 500 meters a second. So... It's kind of according to plan, but we've had to improvise slightly. But kind of. Bake a cake on the service bot. You probably could. I'm sure it got hot enough during the aerobraking process, or it does get hot enough during the aerobraking process to you could just nip out. You could fry a couple of eggs on the heat shield and it'd be fine. The reason I've got this pinned, by the way, is you do have the jettison heat shield option, so we'll do that once we're through the atmosphere. We're not going to jettison it just now, though, because it's not, there's no ablator left, but apart from anything else, it's extra weight at the bottom of the capsule, which will help us keep pointed the right way during re-entry. And also, it's an extra part that would potentially burn up before the capsule burned up, kind of thing. So I don't know. We'll see what kind of re-entry speeds that we actually do encounter, because I don't know what it's going to be like. So flying through the atmosphere once again. We're now well under 1,000 kilometers, dropping steadily. 900 kilometers. Dropping towards 800. We'll definitely go through 800. Yeah, we're on the way back out the other side of this. We might get down to 750. There's 750. Maybe 700. I mean, the rate that you're losing altitude, as it were, drops as you obviously get back up to the thinner parts of the atmosphere. No, below 700. We might even get down as far as 650. Yeah, this is why aerobraking... I don't tend to aerobrake a lot, because it requires a fair bit of patience. Oh, there we go. We're below 650. We're not going to go much further below 650, though. But yeah, you really have to do multiple passes if you're doing this kind of aerobraking back to Kerbin/Gale. But if you're aerobraking to bleed off speed to get a more delta V friendly orbital capture around one of the planets the other planets that does have an atmosphere, of which there are several in this Galileo planet pack. I've not even showed the whole system, but this is the number of bodies you can visit. It's what was it they were saying? It's like the stock Kerbal system plus the outer planets mod, which adds some planets and moons. So the number of bodies that you can visit is like all of these, you know, it doesn't look like that many, but then a lot of these have moons. So yeah, there's a lot to do in the Galileo planet pack. There's a lot of places that you can go and visit. Also, we need to zoom in more than that. There we go. So, right, yes, we can just time warp again. Let's do the time warp again. Yes. Pity they couldn't climb out and parachute down. There are mods that add parachutes for your Kerbals. I think that might be one of the things. Are they adding that in 1.3? I can't remember. They might be. They might be adding that to the vanilla client. Parachutes for your Kerbals. But that is something you can add via a mod. So, I think with this pass, we can probably get down to about the 400 kilometer mark on the apoapsis. Maybe even below 400 kilometers. So let's give it a go and see what happens. We're aerobraking. If you aerobrake from about sort of 55 kilometers up, I mean, we've actually dropped below that. The periapsis is now just under 52 kilometers. But above 50 kilometers or so, the atmosphere is thin enough that you will just fly out the other side. But if you start to drop below 50, at that point, the atmosphere, when you're getting down to the thickest part, it's grabbing you enough that you can potentially start encountering so much resistance from the air that it actually, like, you heat up more than you want to, and it actually then starts bringing you back down to whichever planet you're orbiting, to Gale in this case. So you want it to be enough atmosphere to actually slow you down, but not to slow you down too much, because then you're going to build up too much heat before you want to. Because the whole object of the exercise is to bleed off speed. So we started off, when we came back from Iota, our orbital velocity at periapsis was about 3,300 meters a second. And now at periapsis, it's around 2,500. So we've burned off quite a lot of our velocity. So, oh yeah, okay, that's below 400. 350. We might even drop to below 300 then. So not too many more passes. Oh yeah, the wing glider suits are like those. Yeah, I don't think I'd ever be brave enough to try out something like that. That would be slightly a bit too much for me. So yeah, we are actually going to get just below 300,000 kilometers. So that's kind of like high-ish, or not even really that high orbit, but considering we started out there, you know, that's the power of aerobraking, and all of this with no rockets to slow us down. This has all just been the power of the atmosphere slowing us down. So it's basically a free return, without having to carry the delta V to slow you back into the closer, you know, circular orbit. And of course, if you're returning from a slow, closer orbit, then it doesn't matter so much in terms of your re-entry. It's a lot more comfortable. Whereas if you come screaming back in at over 3,000 meters a second, that's going to be rather a hot re-entry. So at that point, you definitely do need a heat shield. And of course, we've burned off all the ablator at this point, so Yeah, I was concerned that we didn't have enough ablator to begin with. So that's entirely why I've gone for this approach, and why it's taken rather longer than I thought it might have. Because if I still had the little bit of delta V that we had left, I think it's about this point where I'd go, okay, let's use that little bit of delta B and just bring us back down. In fact, I probably would have tried it before this point, but I might have quick saved. But as it is, I don't have that option. So we'll just have to do this the hard way, or the slightly more tedious way. Well, you see, I don't drive cars, Sombra. I've honestly never learned to drive, but I've never, ever in my life been in a position where I could afford to own a car, so that's been a big part of it. But also I think I'd be pretty terrible, quite honestly. So all this time warping, like the orbital period is now so low that we still have 50 days of food remaining. Oh yeah, by the time if I ever in my life get to being able to afford a car, they'll probably all be self-driving cars at that point. It is entirely possible. Well, I think I might have a slight problem of like driving is easy, but crashing is also easy. So yeah, it's my ability to pay attention to multiple things at once that might be a slight problem. Like I struggle hard enough with that in World of Tanks. Whereas in a car, if things go wrong, they can go slightly more wrong than in World of Tanks. In World of Tanks, it doesn't really matter. In a car, it might matter slightly more. So we've dipped down below. Yeah, we're really starting to dig into the atmosphere now. The periapsis is dropping, so this might be the final return orbit. The periapsis is 47 kilometers, 46 kilometers and dropping. See you, Nikos. You'll be able to learn the fate of Elspeth or Eilidith. I really don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that. I really don't. But yeah, you'll be able to learn her fate on YouTube, so fear not. Yeah, periapsis 42 kilometers. Yeah, this is probably our final re-entry. So we'll see how it goes. 35. Yeah, this is it. This is it. We're coming in hot, boys. We're coming down whether we want to or not. So yeah, 2300 meters a second. So this kind of velocity is entirely survivable without a heat shield. So we're getting some heating. If I bring up the thingy view, you know, it is heating up a bit, but it's not even heating up enough to bring up the warning bars. It's when the bars appear on screen, that's when you know you've got a problem. So we're not even getting those. So just the natural heat dissipation capacities of these parts is sufficient. So yeah, we're starting to seriously get some slowing now. We can actually have a quick look in the capsule and look out the window and see some of the flame effects. Oh, the sound effects are good as well. I don't know how well those come through, but oh, I forgot this is... Oh, go away, Windows. This is one of the cockpits that actually has like you can do various things with the screens, so yeah. Not all the cockpits have that, because the cockpits have to be done on an individual basis, but it is possible to actually have with the aid of mods you can do entire missions just from inside the cockpit, which I think theoretically is possible without mods, but it would be a hell of a lot harder to do. So there we go. We're safely down, and all of you that predicted I was going to kill this brave Kerbal can just go and suck it. Actually, we can turn off that. In fact, we'll adjust some heat shield at this point as well. Might need to wiggle the capsule a bit to try and get it free, though. Okay. It's kind of stuck on us, but by the point we jettison the parachute, or use the parachute rather, it'll be fine. It'll actually just drop away naturally, because this is not actually now attached to the capsule itself. So yeah, no, it's fine. Oh ye of little faith, it's fine. It's going to work out fine. It's going to be okay. There was more than enough redundancy in the entire thing. And like, the entire mission was only about 20 odd days. So obviously, with the 2 days of life support supplies in the capsule, that would not have been nearly sufficient. But with all the extra we took along with us, it was fine. It was all fine. And you all should be completely ashamed of yourselves for not believing in me, because obviously I know what I'm doing 100% of the time. Obviously, even when it appears when I don't know what I'm doing, I still secretly know what I'm doing. So parachute out. Should actually be paying attention to the altitude there. Whoa. And whoa. That was a bit of a rough landing. I don't think we put the parachute out quite quickly enough, but it also didn't seem to deploy. But it was enough. It didn't seem to deploy until relatively late in the day. So it was a bit exciting. Probably more exciting than it needed to be. But it's fine. It's fine. And it would have been very embarrassing, having said all that, if I'd then just plunged into the open ocean and killed Elspeth. But it's fine. It's fine. It was all planned. It was all completely planned, and it's fine. Completely fine. I was too busy needling you lot and not paying attention to the altitude. Almost distracted him long enough. Maybe next time. Oh, so that was the plan, was it, Sleece? Oh, I should have guessed. So there we go. This took a little bit longer than planned, but we brought back some tasty, tasty science, and we completed a nice contract. Elspeth got a nice chunk of XP and a whole bunch of ribbons, as we can see there, which is not bad for a very first mission. And it also means we should maybe have a nice new contract popping up. So we'll see what that science can get us. That's several nodes worth. Explore Gale. Rendezvous 2 vessels in orbit. When it says rendezvous, does it just mean park them next to each other? Or I don't know. That's not something I can really do without MechJeb, to be quite honest. Something I'm very, very bad at. So launch site 1, science stage from space around Iota, we'll definitely take that one. Test the Mark 1 lander cannon on escape trajectory out of Iota. That sounds like it'd be quite a difficult one to do. Seismic readings on the surface of... That one actually doesn't have a duration. We might... Oh no, we're actually now at the max active contract anyway, so that's fine. So yeah, let's have a quick look at the science that we can get, and we've got a huge chunk of funds as well. So yeah, funds are absolutely not going to be a bottleneck. Science is going to be the bottleneck. So let's have a quick look at what's available. So that's more battery options, but with tweak scale, battery options are less important than they might be. Like, tweak scale does give you so much more in terms of options for the parts that you may or may not want to use. Right, oh, here we go. So this one unlocks a MechJeb feature, maneuver. What? Maneuver planner, which is very useful. Translation, warp helper, attitude adjustment, thrust window, RCS balancer. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll use that one because that gets me a MechJeb thing plus the Mark 1 lander can. And we have 98 research. So, where do these things lead? I tend to, like, when I'm playing career, I tend to go for the things that get me MechJeb features before anything else. In fact, going down this branch also gives me some nice parts that we could maybe start to think about space stations with as well. Fuel tank's not so important right now because, again, tweak scale. I guess we'll go with this one because the part couplers and the small cargo base might actually be quite useful. Yeah, okay, we'll go with that one, and then I guess we'll save that other bit of science for later because we can't